Hey, braver women. It's good to be here. It's good to be back with you. And here I am back ready with you for autumn. So, before we dive in today, I want to honor the weight of what you're about to hear. Now, today's guest, Ali, her story involves discussions and references to childhood sexual abuse and suicidal thoughts. And I'm letting you know so that you can decide what feels safe for you and for you to take breaks whenever you need. Now, it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a while since the last podcast episode, all the way back at the end of May, I think. And I hope that you've been keeping well. How's your summer been? Now, for me, I took the summer off. It's a first actually in a number of years, but I wanted to step back and recharge. I've spent the time surfing, hiking, and exploring in my camper van with my little brown dog Bodhi. Now, time in nature always grounds me and it sparks new ideas for the work that I do with my clients. So coming back now, I feel recharged, I feel fresh, and I've got some new insights and some incredible conversations as always to share with you. Now, today I'm bringing you a story that captures exactly why these conversations and this podcast matter so much. And I'll continue to say this because my clients and this podcast are living proof. When painful stories are when they're talked about in safe places, when there's no judgment, they begin to lose their grip. Feeling safe enough to tell the truth allows you to develop a completely different relationship with the darkness you've worked so hard to protect on the inside. Now, before we dive in, take a quiet moment with me and notice the ideas that you hold about who you are, who you think you are, and the thoughts that whisper that you might be different, the feelings that you've tried to build a life around even when they feel heavy. So many of those beliefs were shaped long ago by experiences that you never asked for. And I want to tell you right now that they aren't flaws. There were once intelligent ways for you to get by and survive, responses that your nervous system created to help you keep going despite the hurt and the brokenness that you've been feeling inside. Now, today, you're going to be introduced to a remarkable woman, Ali. And I can honestly say that her courage will stay with me for a very long time. She's an incredible woman from the north of England who recently finished a 6-month journey with me. In our final session, she told me with incredible bravery, might I add, that she wanted to share her story so other women might know that healing is possible. But I want to start by telling you this wasn't always the way for Ali. As a child, she was sexually abused by her stepfather. For decades, she carried a deep sense of otherness, feeling unsafe, unworthy, always feeling as if she was on the outside. That trauma that she experienced shaped everything: her relationships, her choices, even the way she experienced her own body. When we first spoke, she described it as do or die. Working with me, her last chance to face the pain that she'd been forced to carry for decades. Now, in this profound conversation, you'll hear how Ali moved from years of hiding, years of overcompensating, shape-shifting, and living in the grip of shame to a place where she can finally say, and you'll hear it for yourself, I'm not keeping secrets anymore. I never realized until now that I've been carrying shame that was never mine to carry. Now, I think you'll agree from what you've heard so far, that is one hell of a transformation. And over the past 6 months, we worked in a disciplined but very compassionate relationship where safety, courage, and consistency and responsibility created the conditions for her profound change. Now, this wasn't about clever techniques. It was the slow, steady work of connection or reconnection, because here's the thing: wounds created in relationship can only begin to heal in relationship. And I've said this before on a number of podcast episodes, and I say it again because it's so important. Now, session by session, Ali confronted the shame that she once thought was permanent and began to reconnect the parts of herself that trauma had fragmented. Her sense of identity, once defined by fear and false beliefs, began to take on a completely new meaning for the first time in her life. And she'll share with you what changed on the inside for her and how she learned to meet the old feeling of brokenness so that she could finally feel more whole, more worthy, more deserving. And you'll hear also how Ali calls this journey the best thing that she's ever done in her life. It's the bravest thing she's ever done in her life. 6 months ago, she could never have imagined speaking about any of this in public. But today, she offers her story to you as a gift to anyone who needs to know that the shame they carry was never theirs to begin with. And at the end of this episode, you'll start to understand how childhood trauma silently conditions our sense of self, why shame feels permanent, but it isn't, and how healing becomes possible when safety and responsibility come together. And so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you get to listen to this. It feels a real privilege for me to be able to share this. And Ali, I just want to say this. If you're listening, I know you will be. Thank you for trusting me with your story and allowing it to be shared here. Your courage, I want you to know this, is extraordinary. And I know it will reach the women who most need to hear it. So let's begin. So, Ali, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us, your experience of Braver Women. I know that the listeners to this podcast are going to get so much value out of listening to your experience, your story, and the trajectory that you've been on over the past 6 months with me. So I'm so pleased to have you here.
Thanks, Leanne.
Great. So just to start with, Ali, tell us a little bit about you, who you are, where you're from, any interesting facts that you'd like us to know.
Okay, I'm Ali. I currently live in the northwest of England, but was born in Surrey. I've lived all over the world, and I have finally settled in the north, where my home, my heart home is most definitely.
Yeah. And where's that?
I live in the Peak District, which is absolutely beautiful. Great walking, great wild swimming, outdoor pursuits, anything sort of like that. Or if you're like me, just admiring the scenery.
Why not? Why not? Now, Ali, I know before we pressed record on this podcast, you told me a really interesting fact, and I really want you to share it because I think it's fascinating.
Okay. Yeah, it's a bit of a sad secret, really, that I used to be a Viking reenactor, part of a living history, a group called Regia Angelorum. I'm an archaeology and history graduate, and that really appealed to me. So I was very lucky, actually. I traveled all over the place with them, doing shows, doing living history exhibits. We used to do the Jorvik Viking Festival in York every year.
Wow.
Big parade and the battle in the middle. Yeah, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was great camaraderie, and yeah, it was good fun. Too old for that now. Too many bones, I'm afraid.
That's incredible. I mean, like I said to you, that I talk to so many women all over the world, and I always find out these details at the end. So, and I knew there'd be something, and there we are. There we have it.
Yeah, that's that's my bit of my sad secret past.
I absolutely love it. I love it. So, we're going to talk about some of the journey that you've had with me on your therapy journey and what you've experienced, but so that everyone can understand the context of what you've been through with me, we're going to take you all the way right back to the beginning, to when you were a child. And so just tell us a little bit about you, what you were like as a kid, what was growing up like for you.
Yeah, growing up was pretty difficult.
Yeah.
My parents split up when I was quite young, and I acquired a stepfather, and it wasn't a good thing.
Mm.
We were moved from where everything was familiar to the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden I didn't have family around me apart from mum.
Mm.
And yeah, it wasn't a good situation growing up. We were sort of living in poverty as well. I'd gone
Mm.
from, a middle class lifestyle to living in real proper poverty.
Mm.
Food poverty and heat poverty. We were cold and hungry a
Mm.
lot
Mhm.
when we were kids. It wasn't a good situation.
Yeah.
Um, Although, as a kid, you just accept it, and you just get on with it.
Mhm.
Um, there were times where, even as a child, I'd be like,
Mm.
"Oh, fuck,"
Yeah.
you know, even as a child,
Mm.
feeling that something was just so off.
Yeah.
But again, as a young person, I couldn't put my finger on what it was that was off, but something felt really, really off,
Mm.
and everything felt dangerous.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
whole household was very controlled
Yeah.
by one person, and everybody had to jump.
Mm.
He said, "Jump."
Mm. And that's something that was off, was feeling incredibly unsafe as a
Very unsafe, from a very early age. I think he came into my life when I was about 4,
yeah.
and my father was gone. I didn't know what had happened to my dad. All of a sudden, he wasn't in my life.
Yeah.
He tried to be in my life and was, rebuffed
Mm.
all the time by aggressive, stepfather being very aggressive and not allowing any contact
Mm.
between me and my father.
Yeah.
Um, and my mum was, had gone from a vivacious officer's wife, because my dad was in the army,
Mm.
um, a vivacious officer's wife, to a dowdy, downtrodden woman who I'd say probably thought herself, "What have
Mm.
I done?"
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any siblings, Ali?
I had 2 older brothers,
Yeah.
both of which had left home
Mm.
by that time, and then when I was about, ooh, 7 or 8, my mum had a another child with my stepmother,
Mm.
um, my stepsister.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, excuse me.
That's right. So it sounds to me like we've got this little girl that's growing up, environments drastically changing,
Mm,
loss of your father no longer in the picture,
yeah.
into a situation and an environment that felt dangerous and unstable,
Yes.
poverty,
Yes.
feeling like there's something wrong, there's just something incredibly unsafe, and there's something incredibly wrong.
And just being controlled
Mm.
24/7, the whole household being controlled
Yeah.
and running to his tune. He was a vegetarian, so which was quite unusual then in the
Yeah.
late 60s, early 70s. Um, so everybody had to be vegetarian,
Yeah.
and that was the sort of thing. His word was rule.
Hmm.
Absolutely. He didn't use violence
Hmm.
at all, or shouting or screaming, none of those things. You just understood that when he said that was the way it's going to be, that was the way it was going to be.
Yeah. Looking back as the adult that you are now, as to little Ali, growing up in that, what was life like for you on the inside? What was it really like?
It
Must have
was
been
very
incredible.
lonely.
Yeah.
Um, we were very isolated. We literally lived in the middle of nowhere. Um, I was kept out of school initially, so I didn't even have that to sort of fall back on. Um, I just remember being very lonely and feeling, although I didn't realize it at the time because I was a child, that I was very isolated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a scary thing because before I'd been surrounded by family. My
Mm.
brothers lived at home. My grandmother lived nearby, my grandfather, big family. And all of a sudden that was gone. And that was very confusing. And I'm very lonesome,
Mhm.
very lonesome. I grew up a very lonely child, very internally lonely.
Yeah, I was about to say, as
Felt it. I felt it. I felt otherness.
yes,
That I wasn't like other children, who were jolly and playing and stuff like that.
yeah,
I was very, not withdrawn, but very introverted.
yeah, yeah.
And my books were my friends.
Oh,
Um, that's my love of books from a very early age.
mhm.
I could read, fluently. And by the time I was like 4 or 5, and I just loved reading, and it was an escapism.
Yeah,
So I would read, I'd sit in my bedroom and read and read and read and read. And at the time, it was like Enid Blyton and
ah,
um, The Wishing Tree and Famous Five and all those sorts of books. And they were real escapism for this lonely little girl who
yeah,
who really didn't have a clue where her place was
yeah,
in all of this.
yeah. And it's that those are the initial ingredients for quite toxic shame, which we'll come on to as
Yeah.
we progress with this. But that isolation, that loneliness, that lack of being seen or acknowledged, that lack of emotional attunement from caregivers
Yes,
who
absolutely.
were responsible for your development emotionally and physically.
I mean, Mum just didn't have time to, notice because she was so caught up in his life and what he wanted. So, you know, I was literally on my own. On,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
you say, Mum, and she'd be like, not now.
Yeah.
Can we? No,
What did you internalize, Ali, from that? What were the?
that I wasn't worth the effort.
Mm,
That I wasn't worth anything.
mm.
That I was in the way.
Yeah.
And especially when my sister came along,
Yeah.
because all the attention was on her,
Yeah.
being a child of the marriage. Um, so I got sort of like sidelined even further. There was the golden child,
Yeah.
and there was me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that if she could have given me to my father, she would have.
Yeah.
you know, because she just wanted her perfect little family unit.
Yeah.
And I was sort of like surplus to requirements.
Mm. What did you really want as a kid? What did you want so much that you
I
didn't get?
wanted to be included.
Mm.
I wanted to feel part of a family.
Yeah.
Um, and that's something that has stayed with me,
Yeah.
even till now, is that need to belong, that need to have that uh, supportive unit around you
Mm.
so that you can explore the world in safety
Mm.
and know that there are people there to hold you up uh, and to comfort you if it all goes wrong or whatever. But there wasn't any of that.
Yeah.
There was me and there was them.
Yeah. What do you think the impact? So you talk about the escapism of literature and Enid Blyton and books and all of that really lovely stuff, which is nice, but actually it was being used as an escapism, as a way to self-soothe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
um yeah, I suppose maybe for me, books were the equivalent of um, sucking my thumb or, twirling my hair or something like that, because it was a comfort to me, because it was an escape.
Yeah.
I could escape into those adventures, that these children in the books were having. And I could really escape into that and escape from the reality of the fact that we were living in a house that was falling down. It was freezing cold, and there was no elements of comfort whatsoever, not for me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
um yeah, the books were really, really my escape, my self-soothing, and have remained so,
Mm.
for many, 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 many years.
Mm. How did you find yourself within relational dynamics? So, how did you find that you evolved from that child who was very emotionally lonely, unseen, unacknowledged, feeling sidelined for another child, feeling unloved, feeling controlled and scared and restricted? How did that has an impact within relationships and how we move and grow through the world, how we evolve? What can you notice that you were like as a kid when you were interacting with other people as you started to get a bit older?
I was always the odd one out.
Mm.
um
Was that the story, or was that the it's just how you felt?
no, that, I mean, I suppose I was the odd kid. I was
Yeah.
studious, and I enjoyed books, and that doesn't make you terribly popular at school, really. That you actually want to study, and you actually want to listen to the teacher, and all that sort of thing. I was odd, and I was scruffy,
Mhm.
because you know there was no money to
Yeah.
keep buying new clothes, so I stood out.
Mm.
And although I do remember my junior school years, in general, were quite happy. I went
Yeah.
to a very, very tiny, tiny junior school. There was only like 40 pupils. And so as far as educationally, I got a great education there. But I was always just the odd one out, because all the other kids had birthday parties and ponies and holidays with their family, the latest toys, whatever. Those, I don't know, you might be too young to remember, but those two balls on a string called clackers.
Mhm.
Then,
Yeah.
I wanted a pair of those so badly. I just remember wanting them so badly when I was at school,
Mhm.
because everyone had them. Everyone had them,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
But of course, no, no.
And so what I've learned about you, working with you, Ali, is that you're highly academic, highly talented when it comes to music and the arts and things like that. And so that makes sense, that escapism, that immersing yourself in something more pleasurable than your immediate environment.
Yeah, it was necessary. It
Mhm.
was necessary. I didn't know why at the time,
Mhm.
but I just knew that that time that I had in my room on my own with my books, I was relatively safe,
Mhm.
and that I didn't have to worry about what was going on elsewhere in the house,
Yeah.
because out of sight, out of mind,
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah. Are you happy to talk about, we don't have to, but
Yeah,
are you happy to talk about the real impact of your stepfather
yeah.
that he had on you as a kid? Because I know that this is really the linchpin within the trauma that you've carried for so many years. And I absolutely know there will be so many women listening to this that will just be so grateful for hearing where you are now in relation to that. Yeah.
Well, obviously, it's the archetypal evil stepfather story.
Yeah.
I was ignored and, you know, not paid any attention to, really,
Mm.
until he did start to pay attention when I was about 7.
Mm.
And I don't know why, and I don't know what clicked the switch, or I have no idea. Maybe he was biding his time. I have
Yeah.
no idea. But my mum was well and truly hooked. She could see him do no wrong, so I thought he'd gained confidence, basically. And he decided that I was it, and that he was going to sexually abuse me for the next 7 years. Unfortunately for me, he was involved with several other people in academia that also I was passed around. I was passed around to his academic friends who had a penchant for little girls.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, that went on almost on a daily basis in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't have a clue. I didn't know what was going on. I just wanted to please him.
Mm.
He was bestowing all this attention on me all of a sudden, and I felt important. And then I realized why he was doing that.
Mm.
And of course, you think, well, why didn't you just say something to your mum? But I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was terrified that I'd done something wrong, that it was my fault, that I'd made this happen.
Yeah.
And as it went on, it was quite mild to begin with, touching and inappropriateness in general, coming into the bathroom when I was in the bath, to wash me,
Mm.
and all those sort of things. He was very clever, he was very manipulative, and I honestly thought that maybe this is what happens to everybody
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
And when I'd said something to him, like, I don't like this, I
Mm.
don't like it, I don't like it. And it was like, well, who cares? You
Yeah.
know, no one cares.
Mm.
And don't bother to tell anyone. This was a constant theme. Do not bother to tell anyone, because nobody will believe you. Nobody will believe you.
Mhm. Mm.
And that left me in a very scary place. It was very dark.
Yeah.
Mum, completely oblivious, caught up with the baby, and basically trying to revolve her life around his wants and needs. You'd call that coercive control in these days. But yeah, it, it was not good.
Mm. Mm.
And it went on for 7 years. And people would say, well, hang on a minute, you were 14. Why couldn't you say something to somebody? You were surrounded by adults at school. Why couldn't you say something? I was so ashamed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was so ashamed when I realized it wasn't really until I went up to senior school that I realized what he was doing
Yeah.
was very, very wrong. And it didn't happen to all girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
I realized then that, whoa, so why didn't I tell anyone?
Mm. Mm.
Because he'd ingrained into me
Yeah.
that I was a liar,
Mm.
that no one would believe me, and that if someone believed me, I'd be taken into care.
So compliance with fear,
Yeah,
compliance with shame,
yeah,
compliance with just feeling
yeah.
as if you were the problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was, because, not only by him making that up, but, my mother considered me to be the problem because obviously I started acting up.
Mm.
I was in pain a lot of the time. I couldn't tell my mum.
How the hell did you deal with that, Ellie?
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Mm.
When I think about it now, I don't know.
Yeah.
I became more and more insular, going up to secondary school. The mean girls saw me and thought, oh, she's an ideal bullying candidate. So I was horribly bullied
Yeah.
at school.
Yeah.
by three girls who were like 3 years higher than me.
Yeah.
They bullied me for the entire time they were at the rest of the time that they were at the school. So I was I was up shit creek really. I couldn't have any comfort at home, any emotional comfort, any physical comfort even. And at school, it was just worse. So my behavior started to get, really bad. I got, very cheeky at school. I was a very good student. My grades dropped massively because I just couldn't cope what was going on. It was just all too much.
Yeah.
My only escape at the time was my music. I played in a youth orchestra, and that was the only escape. On a
Mhm.
Saturday, it was the only escape to be around other people and not feel other.
Mhm.
I always felt other, and I've explained that to you. I've
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
thought, oh, I'd stand to the side there.
And that's the thing.
You're not the same as
Yeah.
everyone.
Well, all of those messages, when you don't have the context as a child to realize that the people in authority over you, when you don't have the context to realize that what they're doing is wrong, like a child, and we've talked about this together, haven't we? The child, the child who experiences this, they don't stop loving the parents or those in authority. They stop loving themselves to be able to
Absolutely.
keep that connection alive, even though it's grossly, grossly wrong.
I agree. Yeah, it's really strange, isn't it, how we turn this in on ourselves. And yeah, you're right. I stopped loving me. I considered me to be the one at fault.
Mm.
That if I didn't look a certain way, if I didn't, behave a certain way, then these things wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously that was untrue because he was a paedophile
Yeah.
and he'd met my mum and gained access to a young child.
Mhm.
Um, because that's what he wanted.
Mhm. Mhm.
He didn't want access to my mother. He wanted access to me.
Mhm.
Um, and that's really scary.
Mhm.
And at that time, any sort of sexual abuse within families was not spoken about
Yeah.
at all because the shame was on the victim,
Yeah.
not on the perpetrator.
Mm.
You must have done something to inflame his passions or something.
Very much the narrative back then,
Yeah,
wasn't
very much the narrative.
it?
And although, when you look back on it today, if you had a child who had great grades and was doing really well at school and all of a sudden behavior changed, you know, 180 degrees, they start being cheeky, they start answering back, they start getting thrown out of lessons, their grades are going down and down and down and down. As a parent, you'd sit that child down and say, right, what's going on?
Yeah.
What is troubling you so much?
Mm.
But no, I got threatened with being put in care.
Yeah.
That's what I got threatened with. I mean, it came to head when I was about 12, I think, 12 or 13. I can't even remember what the incident was that prompted this, but I was sent to see an educational psychologist
Yeah.
with a view that he would tell my parents, oh, yeah, I'm a lost cause and I should be put into care. But actually, he was a very insightful man and he saw straight through it straight away. And in his report, which I've since read as an adult, you know, he was questioning there's something going on in the home there with the stepfather. There is definitely something going on that shouldn't be going on. This child is being abused. It's written all over her. It's written all over her behavior,
Yeah.
you know. But was anything done? No.
Mhm.
They were very disappointed because he didn't say, oh, yes, she's a lost cause. She should be put in care.
Yeah.
So he didn't agree with me being put into care.
Mm.
So therefore, that screwed them there, because they really didn't want me in the house. They really didn't want me in the house.
I mean, just listening to this, Sally, I mean, obviously we've worked very closely together over the past 6 months. I know all this, but just hearing it again, I remember the very first time that I spoke to you about, I don't want to even call him your stepfather because that's
No,
not what he was.
no.
Getting to the point where you said to me, Leanne, can you not say his name?
Yes,
I can't talk about him. I can't think about him to
yes.
the point of where you
I
are.
remember that vividly.
Yeah. Something massively has shifted inside of you. But nonetheless, the gravitas, the impact, the trauma that you've experienced for you to be able to talk about this so objectively now, how does that feel for you to be able to do
It
that?
feels like a freedom, to be honest. As per the little conversation we had before we started this,
Yeah.
I'm not keeping anyone's secrets anymore.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. I kept all of this a secret inside of me.
Yeah.
I said nothing. I just put up with it. And at times it was horrendous.
Yeah.
Um,
The impact it's had on your life, Ali.
yeah, the impact that it's had on my adult life has just been, you know, awful. And I've always felt that just carrying these secrets
Yeah.
is my shame.
Yeah.
I never realized actually that the shame was not mine.
It was never yours to carry.
No, it was never mine to carry. It was never mine to carry.
I just want to say at this point, thank you so much for being so bloody brave and so honest and so real and so raw. I mean, just hearing that again is
It's hard to say it, it's hard to say it. Um, I feel, but if it just helps one more woman understand that the shame is not theirs
yeah,
and speak out, it doesn't matter what it is. If someone has done something that they shouldn't have done, as a child, as an adult, speak out, tell your truth.
mm.
Unfortunately, I never had the courage to, as an adult, get him prosecuted, as a historic.
Yeah,
I personally couldn't face spending time in the witness box being, cross-examined by somebody who was trying to get him off. I thought that would be far more damaging than getting a judicial verdict.
yeah, yeah,
But it has affected the whole of my life.
mm.
That feeling of being worthless.
Mhm.
Because I was told that all the time.
Yeah.
No one will believe you.
Yeah.
No one is going to believe you.
And that drip feed of that type of messaging means that
It dripped in my ear constantly.
lost your voice.
Yeah, quite literally lost my voice. I was scared.
Yeah.
I was too scared to say anything to anyone because the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And my biggest fear was being taken away and put into care. Yeah.
And that loss of voice, and I see this a lot with lots of clients who I work with who have suffered similar, means that they don't feel like can have a voice.
No.
And then life becomes something that happens to you rather than something that happens by you. You don't feel like you're in control.
Absolutely.
Almost feeling like you are having balls thrown at you from every angle, playing whack-a-mole with life. And again, when we move on in a second, we'll see the impact that this has had, where this was very much how you presented when you came to me, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I'm 61.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where it was do or die, quite literally. I'd carried all this shame. I'd already had therapy, CBT, hypnotherapy, all of the therapies,
Yeah.
mindful self-compassion, all of it. I've done all of these, and at the end of the day, I still felt the same. I didn't feel like anything had changed. Um, but then the therapists were only getting half the story because I was so ashamed.
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell them about the ins and outs of what happened and the effects that it had on me. I
Mm.
didn't want to say that, you know, I was passed around amongst groups of paedophiles. Um, and, you know, carrying all that shame made me seek out therapy
Yeah.
to just try and offload just the sort of more clinical version,
Yeah.
you know, not the really deep down stuff that really, really bothered me.
Yeah.
Just like trying to take a bit off the top all the
Yeah.
time so that I could carry on for another wee while
Yeah.
until I needed to do that again and again and again and again. Um,
It's like chopping the flower off and not weeding it out and not weeding that.
exactly. It's not pulling the weed out by its roots, you know, it's just you know, taking a few leaves off
Mm.
and seeing what will happen. You know, we've spoken about this, and don't get me wrong, I had the most lovely therapist before I met you, and um, she helped me with the day-to-day stuff that I was not really coping very well with. But there was an incident in my life last Christmas, where the doctor told me that I couldn't drive, and I just lost it. I lost it. I lost all control. I lost all everything. And I spiraled
Mhm.
very, very badly. And it scared me so much the way I felt. Um, it wasn't the first time that I felt suicidal, but it was the most intense time.
But I think that's when you reached out to me.
Consistently suicidal, yes. When I contacted you,
Mm.
I was in a lesbian group, and I'd said to, you know, I put a post on saying I've been suffering from severe anxiety for like a month now and it won't go away. Does anyone know any tips, tricks, whatever? And somebody said, um have you heard of Leanne C. Jones? And I said no. And they said, really check her out, check out Braver Women. I think that would really help.
Mhm.
So of course I did a bit of Googling and read the splurge and, you know, all of that, and thought, well, hmm, you know, will it be any different? What's the point? But to be honest with you, I said to myself, right, this is your last chance, Ali.
That's what you said to me.
Yeah. If you do not, if something doesn't change after this, then you're done. We're done. We tried everything. We're done. We can't live like this. I can't live like this. I cannot live like this any longer.
What was going on, Ali? So think about that time, because I think you joined the group first off, didn't
Yes,
you?
I did. Yeah.
I remember that. And I think you'd put some posts in and got some, you know, nice responses.
Yeah.
But I just
Terrified. I was terrified, to be honest, because I knew deep down that in order for this to have any therapeutic effect, that I was going to have to be brutally honest.
yeah.
And that was really, really scary. Scary for me because it's learning stuff about myself that I don't particularly like as well.
Yeah.
You know, learning my foibles and my faults.
Mhm.
I was very scared. I was very, very scared.
Mhm.
Um,
What were you scared of the most?
telling the truth and not being believed. I think
That's it.
I think it would have crushed me
Yeah.
so much. I put so much pressure on myself.
Oh God, Ali, you really did, didn't you?
I put so much pressure.
Talk about that if you're happy to. So
Yeah.
when we first met, I think one of the most remarkable things that I remember thinking about you was, goodness me, you've lived about 5 lives already.
Yeah.
You've been through so much,
Yeah.
and yet there's a performative, there's a resilient version of you who's very articulate, he's very worldly, he's very educated. And there's that vulnerability.
Yeah, that was my coat of armor. That's
So you,
absolutely my coat of armor that I have learned to use my entire life.
let's talk about that because it's something that you laugh and say, Leanne, you got me there kicking and screaming.
Yeah, you did.
But so this coat of armor has been with you, and it's a survival. It's survival, isn't it? It's pure survival. What talk to me about the survival, alley, the alley, because for there to be a survival, you have to be believing something that you're having to survive every day.
Believed that I was just completely worthless.
Yeah,
That everybody would be able to see the damage.
yeah,
So I just over the years just gave myself more and more pieces of armor, literally, like putting the armor on. If I put this on, you can't hurt me with this.
What did it involve? Talk about what did it involve? So relationships.
Relationships, massively. Relationships, friendships, my relationship with my son. It affected everything. Nobody has ever really seen the real me. Well, I'd say two people, three including you now. Two people have seen the real me, and two of my closest friends, and you, because I've hidden everything, all my feelings of less, my feelings of worthlessness, my anxiety, my neurotic behavior. I've hidden it so well over the years.
What did you hide it behind, Ali?
Being busy, uh, trying to achieve stuff, trying to get into, good positions at work, needing to control everything around me so that there could be no surprises at any time. So the armor is well and truly on. So as you can imagine, anyone trying to have a relationship with me,
Yeah,
it's like, what the you know, I can be just the most loving, generous, super person. And then something would happen that I would get scared of. Now,
yeah,
it wouldn't be something that somebody normal would
yeah,
be scared of, but it would be a look or a certain tone of voice or something like that. And all of a sudden, that feeling inside me that I'd had from since I was a child, which went, danger, 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 danger.
yeah, yeah,
you know, the visor was down and that was it.
mm,
I would literally switch off
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And obviously we can't have a relationship with somebody who does that. But then of course, when they started pulling away because they realized that they could never, penetrate this armor,
yeah,
I'd be desperate. You're
yeah,
abandoning me, you're abandoning me, you're abandoning me. Please stay, I'm begging you, please stay.
yeah,
You know, when they were leaving, it was confirming to me that actually I was right. And, I am worthless and I'm not worth being with. And
mhm.
I didn't see it from the point of view that you're so walled up that you can't,
Got let
have
them
a
in.
relationship. Yeah.
So connection felt very scary for you, didn't it?
Connection was massively scary
Yeah, yeah,
and still is a little bit.
yeah.
I'll admit that, that the thought of being in a relationship with somebody at the moment, it's just like, oh, no.
Well, I think that makes perfect sense, Ali, because you've been through an intense 6 months with me,
Yeah,
and just letting the dust settle on the
exactly.
inside first of all.
Exactly that. I feel very strange actually, because all of that shit has lifted and it's sort of left a little bit of a vacuum of like, okay, who am I now?
Yeah, Yeah.
So I'm taking a few weeks now, after, because we had our last session and I was a bit tearful and I didn't want to say goodbye.
Oh,
Um, because, this has been an absolute eye-opening, life-changing experience for me.
mm,
And I'm taking as much time as I need to, I don't want to say heal, because I wasn't broken.
that's right.
Um, I'm taking this time for me. I'm learning that actually, do you know what? I'm not a bad person.
Mhm,
And that I'm starting to like me.
mhm.
And that's something I've never done. Never done. I've always hated myself. I've hated my body. I hate the way I look. Um,
That's self-loathing, and that's the thing, it's never.
Self-loathing, yeah, absolutely. And you're trying to have a relationship with somebody when you hate yourself, impossible.
Yeah, and that's the thing, if you've never had self-respect or looking after yourself model
Yes,
as a child,
yes.
you're left to learn that in a fragmented and really unhealthy way
And never
as
having
an
any
adult.
boundaries.
Yeah,
So, I didn't learn to have boundaries because I wasn't allowed to have boundaries
yeah,
when I was a child. I couldn't say no or stop or,
yeah,
there will be consequences for this.
yeah.
Consequences were always on me. Um,
What happened as a kid then, as a result of it? So what happened as an adult as a result of that, Ali? What was life really like for you as an adult?
as a young adult,
Yeah.
mm, difficult.
Mm,
I was feral.
mm,
I was absolutely feral. I mean, he left basically when I was 15. I was like, I was literally out in our driveway
yeah.
just doing a little dance when he left. My mother was hysterical. He'd gone off with another woman, of course, did exactly the same thing to her and her family. Um, he went off with another woman he met at work, and left my mother destroyed because her whole life was around him. I didn't give one single shit about
Mm,
my mother lying on the sofa, bawling, crying for months on end. I didn't give a shit. I took it as the very next day, I'm free. I went feral, absolutely feral, out, taking drugs, drinking, having sex with whoever,
yeah.
whoever. Um, and it wasn't good. It
Mm,
wasn't good, but it just confirmed to me, what I'd always believed about myself, that I was just there to be used. And, you know, it might make me feel temporarily better, like I'd been chosen by somebody,
yeah.
but no, it wasn't that. So I ended up pregnant at 16.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, in my 16-year-old wisdom, decided that, yes, I was going to be a really good mother
yeah.
and, I should keep my baby. Obviously, I'm very glad I did now.
Yeah.
Um, but the pressure at the time, it was 1981, single mothers were still really, really looked down on in society. So I was just confirming really what everyone thought of me, that I was just a sketty, feral, no good.
And that's the thing, I was just confirming what everyone thought of me, AKA, I was just confirming what I'd been conditioned to believe
Yes,
everybody
yes.
thought of me. And it's that
Yeah.
mental conditioning that shapes the trajectory of your life, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So, my young adulthood wasn't good.
Mm.
I sort of didn't, it was really strange because I didn't speak to anybody about what had happened to me. Not at all. It just sort of like went seamlessly from it happening to it not happening.
Yeah.
And I never spoke about it to anybody. Um, and then when I was about, I think I was 26 or 27 when my dad died. And it was all a bit traumatic. He died suddenly and he lived in another country and I had to travel out for the funeral and it was just awful. It was awful. But when I got back, all these memories came rushing back.
Mm.
compounded by grief, things that I just pushed down and pushed down and pushed down over the years. So I actually went to see, there wasn't many counselling services then. I'm trying to remember who it was. There was only one, and it was like not like the marriage guidance people, but like an offshoot of them, I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
for grief counselling.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke to the therapist, and she said, has something happened in your childhood? And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, this used to happen and this used to happen. I was just dead casual about it, like
Yeah.
it's something that was really normal. And I can just remember it being like,
Yeah.
um,
And that's the thing, isn't it? A lot of therapists, sometimes I'm going to be really blunt about this. I've spoken to many clients who've had therapy with with therapists who are frightened to go deep, who don't want to challenge.
yeah, and if you think about it, it's the 1980s, and nobody really, therapy was for nutters.
Yeah.
To 1980s. You didn't just, you didn't have a therapist. It was sort of, the classic comedy sketch of like the psychiatrist. You go in and lie on the couch, and he says, "Tell me all your problems." I mean, that was people's view of therapy, I think, in the 1980s. And you're right, the therapist didn't want to go any deeper. She was a grief counselor. She wasn't, practiced or qualified to. And it was almost like opening Pandora's box, because all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, this actually happened to me.
What age were you?
Sorry?
What age were you, Ellie?
I think it was about 26,
Mm.
27 when it, occurred to me that, this was so wrong and this should never have happened to you. And I became very, very angry, and very, very angry with my mum. Very angry with my mum.
When did you come out? Talk to us about that.
A bit of a difficult one, really, because I was about 12 when I realized that I liked girls. And then in my feral my feral period of time between sort of like 14 and 17, I, took that further, and I realized that I really liked girls. But it just wasn't acceptable. It wasn't acceptable part in my family. And the fact that I had a son, as well, a young son at the time, just like, I didn't think that I could go down that route and be an openly gay woman, a full-time lesbian.
Yeah. How did you feel on the inside? What was that like for you?
It was weird. It was just like, because I'd been so promiscuous, I didn't really, people wouldn't have thought of me in that way. They thought that, I was all chasing the boys all the time. That was learned behavior.
Yeah.
When I look at it now, it was learned behavior. It was like, please accept me. Please look at me, but as far as girls are concerned, I didn't actually come out until I was about 23. I think I came out at 23, because I fell in love with a woman. I'd had physical relationships with women, a bit of fun, but this was the first time that I'd actually formed an emotional attachment to another woman.
How was it?
Madly in love. It was madness.
Sorry to interrupt there, Ali. How is it different? What was going on? Because I hear this a lot. Women who, like you say, have been raised to think that I've got to be with a man, I've got to have that stereotypical relationship, suppression of who they really are, and then a confusion of who they really are, and then the regret and the shame and the guilt. And then they fall in love, they have an attachment with another woman, and it's so different.
It was
Well,
very different and very unexpected. It sort of came out of the blue when somebody I knew through the reenactment
mm,
group, I was still doing it at that time, and somebody in the reenactment group who was like a very popular person, very popular woman, who had a boyfriend. um, she lived in London and I lived in Bristol, and she rang me and said, "Oh, I've got a couple of things I need to do in Bristol. Can I crash with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course you can." I didn't actually know her that well, but no worries. Of course, you'll have to sleep on like a mattress on the floor or whatever. But yeah, no worries.
yeah,
And like staying in Bristol for a couple of days turned into like a couple of weeks and then a couple of months. And we went everywhere. We did all sorts of stuff, like, going around historical sites and doing lots of walking and things like that. And I just realized, like, oh, hang on a minute.
mm,
Oh, hang on a minute. This is like more than friendship. I feel more than friendship. But of course, I wasn't going to say anything because, as far as I knew, she was a straight woman.
yeah,
She had a boyfriend and had always had a boyfriend since I'd known her.
mm,
And strange enough, I had a date with a woman. It was like a meet for tea in sort of like one of these like a lesbian bookshop in Bristol. And because I didn't have a clue. I
yeah,
didn't have a clue. I wasn't a really out lesbian. I didn't have a clue about what lesbians did or where they went or any of that business. And it was Bristol, so they were all really cool lesbians, and um so I met this woman for tea and cake, and we spent the whole afternoon sort of like flirting with each other. And it was the first time really that that had happened to me.
yeah,
And I came back from that, and my friend who was staying with me, um I came back and I was all of a fluster, and I was like, whoa, you know um I'm all excited about that. And she turned round and just like burst into tears. And I was like, whatever is wrong? Oh, no, no, you hate me. You hate me because I've, had tea with a woman or something like that. She said, no, you idiot. I love you, and I can just remember being so shocked, so shocked. And it was just wonderful.
mhm,
It was wonderful
mhm,
that somebody that I'd felt something for actually felt the same about me. And it was amazing. It was just amazing. And, 40 plus years later, we are still like this.
yeah,
We're not together, obviously. She's married to a wonderful woman
yeah.
and stuff. Yeah. But we're both L plate lesbians. We didn't have a clue what we were doing. uh,
Elevate
we
lesbians.
used to go to there was a pub in Bristol called the Pink Elephant where all the gays went. And we walked in and everyone ignored us all the time because we just didn't fit in at all. We were quite alternative girls, and they were there all in their Fred Perry shirts and their Levi 501s and their kicker shoes. The lesbians on one side of the bar, the gay boys on the other side of the bar, and there the twain shall meet. Um, so yeah, that whole like the scales falling from my eyes um about my sexuality. Um, I'd always known it. I dreamt about it, but I could never believe that someone would love me because I was so feral and because I was so messed up. And, even at that young age, my mental health problems, anxiety mainly, I didn't know what it was. I just know that I was very nervous all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in certain situations, social situations, I used to feel really, really nervous and make excuses not to go. And um,
Yeah. And it's that thing is that, obviously what you've been through as a child and then realizing that you were different. And then if you think about that, did your sexuality have any impact on how you felt about yourself, like your self-esteem?
yeah, because in those days it, it wasn't acceptable. You couldn't be out and proud because you get spat on in the street, quite literally.
So it was another layer for you to
Yeah,
deal.
another layer of shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only do I have all this childhood trauma shit that's going on that I'm pushing down, pushing down, pushing down. Now I've decided that I'm going to make myself even more of a target because I love a woman, and that wasn't acceptable then. It wasn't acceptable for my family. Um, it wasn't acceptable for public at large. We didn't walk around holding hands or anything like that because we would have been shouted at in the street. No two ways about it.
Mm. Mm. So let's start to talk about the part of your life where things went downhill before you reached out to me. And I know that you said you had been to see the doctor and the doctor
Mm.
said that you couldn't drive. And that was the ignition to,
It literally was the what lit the flame.
yeah.
It was a very, very strange thing. It was so silly. I'd fainted and I disclosed that to the doctor. And instead of her going, you know,
Yeah.
she went, hmm, yes, I think that you shouldn't drive. And I was, sorry? This was on Christmas Eve. I don't think you should drive until you've seen a cardiologist. I said, okay, well, why? That's just silly. It was a simple faint. I was too hot and I hadn't eaten. She said, no, 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 you need to be checked over by a cardiologist. And she was adamant.
Mm.
And I just completely lost it. This had been building and building and building. I'd lost my mother the year before she died. And it affected me profoundly. And then 4 months before this, my 21-year-old dog died, who was the love of my life. And it destroyed me. The grief was just so overwhelming. And I started isolating because my grief was so overwhelming, and isolating and isolating. And then when the doctor told me this as well, I thought, what's the point? What's the point in living anymore? All I'm doing is hurting all the time. And now my freedom is being taken away from me. I would sort of like add a disclaimer that I live in the middle of nowhere, very rurally, with no bus services. So it wasn't just an inconvenience, it was my lifeline,
Yeah.
being able to drive. And I couldn't control my anxiety. I'd had a couple of periods before where anxiety had got bad and had lasted for maybe a month, just on and off, on and off.
What was it like, Ali? Just describe the symptoms that you were experiencing.
Initially, feeling very agitated, very aware of my heartbeat, which was racing constant. It would do like 160 beats a minute. It was just crazy, absolutely crazy. I tried all my tips and tricks for my breathing. I tried meditation, chanting, going for long walks, mindfulness, diazepam, everything. And it just wouldn't stop. It was almost like somebody had flipped the lid off something that had been highly pressurized for so many years. And you can't put it all back in the bottle, it literally.
Yeah.
And
That's the thing about trauma. It works its way out.
exactly.
It's like a kettle boiling and it reaches its peak.
Yeah, it's just like everything imploded rather than exploded, actually. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I lost 15 kilos over a period of 3 months, and I was anxious all day, every day.
Mhm.
If I did sleep, it was a drug sleep through sleeping pills. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night.
Mm,
And no matter what I did, I couldn't control it.
mm,
And I'd always been able to get a grip on it before, but it wasn't having it. It
mm,
wasn't having it.
mm.
So all over Christmas, my best friend stayed with me because she was really, really worried that I was going to harm myself. Because after maybe a week of no sleep, I was almost hallucinating. And it was all very, very scary, and I just had no control over it whatsoever. It was awful, absolutely awful.
Mm.
The most frightening time in my entire life.
Well, I remember our first meeting.
Yeah, I was hysterical when
Really.
we first spoke.
Mm,
And, I just wanted you to take it all away.
mm,
I just wanted you to say, that's you're going to be okay, Ali,
mm,
because if you do X, Y, and Z, then it's all going to go away.
mm, mm. So wanted that quick fix. Just wanted the.
Absolutely, of course I
Yeah.
did. I just wanted
Mm,
it to stop.
mm, mm.
Um, and the more I wanted it to stop, obviously, the less it would stop. And
Yeah.
that hyper adrenalized feeling constantly, that sick feeling in your stomach,
Mhm.
it was just awful,
Mm.
really, really bad.
So when you met me,
Mm.
what was the thing, Ali, that made you say, I want to work with you. I want to try something different.
I think initially I felt like this was my last chance
Yeah.
um, to get things right, to help myself. To be honest with you, I didn't expect much because, as I said, I've had therapy
Yeah.
before and it's sort of taken the edge off, but never really sorted out what the core issues really were.
Mm.
But after speaking to you, I was really hopeful. In fact, my anxiety went away for the first time in 3 months after speaking to you. I mean, it came back the next day, but that evening after I'd spoken to you, and you were so compassionate and so switched on, and I just felt that there's something in what you are saying that makes sense. You didn't try and blind me with science and, oh, this is your body's reacting, blah, 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 blah. You listened. You listened to me and you saw me. And you could see the state I was in. You could see how desperate I was. Everyone could see how desperate I was. I mean, I'm very, very lucky. I had people, my, two of my neighbours especially, who have been unbelievably supportive, and my best friends, they've been unbelievably supportive. But like for the 3 months before I started speaking with you, I was actually having to stay with my friend because I couldn't be alone. Because I was frightened I was going to harm myself if I
Mm.
was alone.
Mm. Yeah, I remember it vividly. I remember it vividly, but I also remember the confidence that I had in you, just speaking to you, listening to you.
Yeah, and in doing that, Leanne, you gave me confidence, that in me,
Mm.
that actually we can sort this. And it's not to banish anxiety forever and ever and ever. You're still going to experience anxiety, and you're still going to experience low mood and shitty days and people being twats.
Mm.
But it's learning how to change the way that you feel about that and the way that you feel about yourself, more
Mm.
importantly.
Mm, absolutely. Talk to me about, I know you'll laugh. I think it took you about 6 weeks to let me in properly.
Oh,
Now, ordinarily, I think in the past, you've always run the show within the therapy room, haven't you?
yeah. I mean, we had that breakthrough session where you saw underneath all the layers of like performative stuff that I was doing, only telling you half the story because, again, shame was just still raising its head a lot. Oh, don't say that because that's disgusting, or this happened to me. Oh, really? Sort of thing. Because a lot of the stuff that happened to me is it's sort of a bit out there, and the shame I was carrying about it.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? When we talk about things, you'd say, Leanne, that's making me cringe.
Yeah.
That discomfort that you had. But
Yeah. Just
what allowed you, I think this is the most important thing for us to touch on,
yeah.
for you and for listeners, because shame is the obstacle that gets in the way of therapy.
Yes.
It really does. And it's the thing that can sabotage the best intentions when that level of trust isn't there. Don't want to say it, don't want to be open. I can't. It makes me cringe. It makes me curl. It makes me recoil. It makes me avoid. It makes me want to tell a carefully curated story that
Absolutely.
I've told to every therapist.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you the same thing and hope for a different response.
Yes.
What was the thing, looking back, that you that allowed you to open up and just think, I'm just going to drop this fucking shield that I've been having with you for the past 6 weeks?
I think it was a moment of clarity, of actually realizing, Ali, if you don't just stop this performative crap and just be real and just say what your story is, not, the carefully curated bit that, is like, oh, that's awful, but not really offensive, um, it was a realization that I had to stop that, because if I didn't, what was the point? What
What
was
got you there?
yeah. Well, you got me there, and it was your persistence, I think, that not you saying to me, you're not telling me the whole story there. It was just the persistence in the questions that you were asking me. And I realized it was like a light bulb moment that I realized, actually, Ali, you can trust this woman. You can trust her. She's not going to recoil. She's not going to go, oh, that's terrible, poor you, sort of thing. Because I didn't want any of that. Um, but it was a moment of trust. And I decided, and it wasn't like a conscious decision. It just was, if you don't do it now, Ali, you will never. And you will be back in the same position, if not now, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
further on.
And that's the thing. I see it every time. Everyone does it, but people aren't aware. The women that work with me aren't aware that they do it. They try every which way
Yeah.
to hide, or but I don't. And I think the consistency, the way that this program is, it's
I agree.
you can't.
But it
You
doesn't
can't
give you anywhere to hide.
no,
Uh,
but in a safe way.
Absolutely. Yeah, don't, you're a strict taskmaster, but you're very, very compassionate, and it is a very, very good feeling to know that, you know, I was completely safe with you,
Mm.
that you were not judging me. You weren't judging my lifestyle. You weren't judging who I was, how flaky I've been in the past, how procrastination has been my, you know, what I've lived by. You didn't judge, and I trusted you, and I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did, because keeping other people's secrets for them
Mm.
destroys your life.
Oh, that's right. And that's the thing. Behind every behavior, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, helpful or unhelpful, is a person who's trying to get their needs met in the only way that they know how.
Yeah.
So procrastination, high achievement, avoidance, all of that,
Yeah,
trying to get those needs met.
absolutely.
In
Trying to
that,
get people to see me how I wanted them to see
yeah.
me.
Mhm.
Um, you know, rather than seeing the archetypal abused child turning into a dysfunctional adult.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. How did you find this different, Ali? Because I know that that was one of your questions when you came to me, and I know that you'd done your homework and you'd stalked me out a little bit, and the work and the podcast and all of the resources. But I said to you, it's different, and you're going to experience something very, very different that you've never, ever had within therapy, because nobody in the world works in the way that I do with my clients individually. How true would you say that is now?
Yeah, very true. I've never experienced anything like it. You know, when you've had therapy a few times, you think it's going to be same old, you know, you just need to learn to be mindful and you need to learn to be compassionate to yourself. How the fuck can I be compassionate to myself? I hate myself. How can I even give myself even the slightest bit of comfort, you know, because I don't like myself at all. The difference here, Leanne, is you didn't let me fall. You supported me all the way through. You were consistent, that I should be consistent in the pattern corrections. You know, they've saved my life and I hated them. I fucking hated them. I'm going to be honest now. Sorry to all the people who are listening to podcasts, but I absolutely fucking hated it. But it was a necessary evil.
Yeah.
So all of you out there who are going, oh, what about the what ifs? I'm not a maybe person. You know, just do it because, you know, it works. I did. I mean, it was so different to anything that I'd ever experienced. And also with you being in my ear every single day with feedback to my updates that I was doing. You know, obviously, first of all, you eased me in with written updates, which I was like, oh, yeah, this is no problem.
Oh, I knew.
Oh, this is going to be sweet. Like, I can just do this.
Out came Ali Shakespeare.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Oh, that's not real. Let's get Chat GPT involved. What can this? Anyway. But then, of course, you know, you turn the tables after about a week and said, right, you're going to be doing voice updates from them. And it was being
accountable.
Yes. Sorry, thank you. Menopause brain. Being accountable for the first time. You know, because before I'd have therapy maybe every week or every 2 weeks, you'd go in and say what had pissed you off in that 2 weeks, you know, and, you know, how you could deal with those emotions, you know, not really actually tackling the actual problem at the bottom of it, just dealing with day-to-day stuff. So being accountable was not something that I was used to in my personal life.
Yeah.
You know, and I had to make a decision, you know, Ali, either you're going to do this or you're not. So if you're going to do it, then do it. But I did find the whole voicemail so difficult to begin with, because you're being real. You're being real and you're admitting that what you found difficult, you know, what you've done wrong, how you've thought, you know, the thought processes for the day and how, you know, they're not very helpful. And then to get to get your feedback, you know, to point in directions, you know, that I didn't think to go, or you're questioning me about, Molly, are you really sort of telling me the whole story there? You know, it was difficult because, like you said, I've always been like running rings around therapists. I don't even know why I did it.
No, and it's an unconscious projection. A lot of clients who come to therapy will unconsciously create the situation or the circumstances with the therapist that they're looking to get resolved. Interestingly enough,
Right.
but I think it's most important that the voice aspect is giving you a voice,
Absolutely.
giving language to your experience rather than it sitting inside your head, being internalized, not ever speaking the experience that you're having out loud. But also, when you start doing something different, you feel different. And when you feel different, you start to retrain your nervous system.
Exactly. And when you first gave me the pattern corrections, I was like, okay, well, what difference is that going to make? But oh my God, when you actually start really living by them, then things do shift. And all of a sudden you think, I've had half an hour without feeling, that something terrible is going to happen. Oh, and I've done this and I've done this. And it was a way of actually um, seeing my progress as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this book here,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this book, and it's all full of therapy notes, all of it. And this is something I've never done before. And I absolutely love it because I can physically see the progression that I've made from this scared, really, really anxious woman that didn't believe that her life was worth anything and honestly thought that probably I'd be better off dead because I couldn't live with the anxiety anymore, that it was destroying my life.
Yeah.
But just learning these pattern corrections and using them on a daily basis and then talking about them and how you've implemented them, the light bulbs start to go off after a while. And like you're right, repetition, 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 repetition. You can't learn something by just looking at it and going, oh yeah, okay, I understand that. But you can't put it until you put it into practice.
That's it. That's it. A lot of talk therapies. Let's talk about it.
Mm.
For me, how I deliver therapy is, what are we going to change about it? Where do we need to start? Because
Yeah.
that's the thing. So, invariably it's daily coaching. It's you're having my voice then becomes your voice, because essentially what I give to everybody that works with me, and you'll know this, is the attunement that you didn't have growing up.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
It's like riding a bike, and then we begin to take the stabilizers off, don't we?
it absolutely is. And all these things that you don't even realize that you're doing all the time, like the what ifs. My life was just surrounded by what ifs. If I do that, what will happen? What if, what if, what if, what if, what if? Also, something very important that I really must say is that feelings don't mean anything. I was compelled to believe every thought and every feeling that I had. I was compelled to believe it because that's the way I operated. So if I was thinking, oh, you're a really bad person and your life's not worth living, that must be the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You're too damaged. That must be the truth. You will never recover. That must be the truth. So when you're holding on to all these things all the time, it's no wonder that you can't feel any better.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of people who come to therapy and through absolutely no fault of their own. And I'm very open about this with my own journey as well. I haven't always had emotional intelligence. I haven't always had emotional literacy. And the reason why I never had it is because it was never modeled. My parents used to shut down. They wouldn't speak to me. We couldn't talk about feelings. I was either good or bad. There was no middle ground.
No.
But actually, when you learn how to relate to your emotions, then you start to see what's really going on. And I think feelings represent the conditioning in our minds. Feelings are they're the mirror of the beliefs that you're carrying, aren't they?
And also, it massively contributed to my anxiety because I'm just having these physical sensations, which is all they are really, is the physical sensations. And I've got this story in my head of what it means.
Yeah. What you think it means.
Yeah, what I think it means. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's okay. Honestly, it's just been, I've so enjoyed this. It's been incredible, but I also don't want to take up too much of your time, Ali. So
Okay.
we'll just begin to wrap this up now, if that's okay by you. Um, I think one question that I'd really love you to answer, as honestly as you can,
Oh,
is there's going to be women listening to this, and they're going to be experiencing something similar to yourself, where they've had trauma, abuse, anxiety, confusion with who they are and how they operate, and all of that stuff, attachment, and they'll have tried therapy. They'll have done the rounds with trying to get it resolved. What would you say to any woman listening to this who is sat on the sidelines, um, wondering whether they should actually come and work with me or be part of Braver Women?
well, I mean, I would just say be brave. You know, um, I was at the bottom. I really was, as far as I was concerned. I could no longer, I didn't want to live. I didn't want to live the way I was feeling. And I took a leap of faith. And that leap of faith is going to pay me back for the rest of my life now. Because I've learned so much. I've learned so much about myself, about the way I work, the way I operate, why I operate the way I operate. I have learned so much. So I'd say to any woman that's just sitting on the sideline who's suffering in any way with lack of self-worth, with anxiety, with never being enough, I would say do it, be brave, make the leap, and you will never, ever regret it. Because for me, at 61, my life starts here.
Incredible.
I didn't think I had a life at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
And now I'm not all shiny and new.
Tell me what you believe about yourself now, Ali. This is coming from the woman who sat in front of me saying, um, goodness, let me try and remember. I don't want to be here anymore. You'll never catch me on a podcast. I'll never do anything like that. I'll never reveal anything about my private life. All of that stuff.
But
I hate myself. I don't like myself.
I think once you get down to the raw bones of it, though, it's do it, it's live or not live. And I chose to live. And all of this, you've been very kind to me and extended the period of time that I was with you, because you felt that I wasn't ready. And I'm so glad you did that, because over the last 2 months that we had, there's been some major breakthroughs
Yeah.
there and major realizations for me. And for once in my life, I feel I'm the same as everybody else. I'm not less. I'm valid. Who I am, just to exist, is enough. I don't have to be clever or bright or smart or have loads of money or whatever. Just existing is enough. And do you know what a gift that is, Leanne? That is
Mm.
such a gift.
Yeah.
Such a gift.
Honestly,
Woman who's tried for 61 years to impress and, you know, be so that people couldn't see who I really was.
yeah.
And now, I don't give
Sorry, say that bit
I
louder.
said, I don't give a fuck,
Yeah.
because this is me unapologetically, and I feel free.
Oh, I'm so incredibly proud of you. I
I'm
really,
so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. You're an amazing therapist. You're an amazing life coach, and you are an amazing person. And I wish you, and I know that you are going to fly. I know.
thank you, Ali. That means so much to me. And it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you. I've enjoyed every single moment working with you. I have, because I knew that dogged determination.
Absolutely.
Even when you started to give up, I was like,
Yeah.
absolutely not. I'm going to grab you by the hand
I'm going to
virtually.
kiss my ass. Well and
We
truly.
we are getting to the end of this come hell or high water, irrespective of how long it takes. I'm not going to let you down.
You didn't let me down. And you know what? You're probably the first person in my entire life that hasn't. So I
Well,
thank you from my
I,
heart.
it's my pleasure, you know, it really is my pleasure. You know, I never want to be this stoic therapist that isn't real with other human beings. You know, what I do is relational. I'm not going to hide the fact that I do get emotional when I have clients who have incredible breakthroughs like this, when I see such transformative results. You know, the tears that you have in your eyes now.
Yeah, I know.
No, I feel it too. I feel
Yeah.
it too, and I think it reflects the level of investment that I've had in you, but also the level of relief that you're experiencing
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. You have never failed me. In the entire time when I've been difficult and I've been obstructive and manipulative and wanting to give up and all those things, you have never let me down. And I'm so grateful. Life isn't wonderful. Life isn't amazing. It's not rainbows and unicorns. But you know what? I can sit in a room with myself now and be by myself and go in my van for the weekend by myself and not have those terrible fears that I had before.
Mhm.
Life starts now for me.
Yeah, and you're going to have an incredible life, and I want to
I'm
hear
going to embrace it. I'm going to embrace it.
what do you think? What do you think that you'll do? What do you think you'll do over the next 6 to 12 months, Sally, or,
Uh,
or even the next month?
well, I'm taking time. I'm just taking time to see what fits with me.
Yeah,
You know, what I'm on a weight loss journey at the moment. And, so I really am trying to change my life.
yeah.
I want to get healthy and, the Peak District is full of lovely places to do lots of lovely things. So that's what I intend to do.
And I love that. I love that. Do you know what? Because so many people think they've got to have a bucket list, tick, 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 tick,
No,
tick. And winning at life,
fitness for me.
it's how can I be more myself every day?
Yes,
How can
exactly.
how can I be more at peace with me
Yes,
every
that's the whole thing, isn't it? That is the whole thing. Because that's what life is all about, really, is actually living
existing?
yourself and loving yourself.
Mm.
Or even if you don't love yourself, liking yourself a little bit.
Well, self-acceptance. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
acceptance
Absolutely.
doesn't necessarily mean liking. Can I accept where I am at this moment in time?
Exactly. And I do accept where I am at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And
Fine.
it's a process.
Yeah.
And yeah, come back to me in 6 months.
You know I'm going to hold you to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Come back to me. Mind you, you'll be far too important and on, you know,
Not at all.
lecture tours and God knows what else, book signings. Who knows? But
Ali, you know what? Honestly, I know that women listening to this are going to be just in awe of what they've just heard, what they've just witnessed. I know I am, and I've known you very intimately, you know, for the past
yeah,
6 months, but just
yeah,
hearing, I mean, this is just incredible for you to get to this point where I mentioned it at the start. I said, don't worry, we'll share your journey. I know we will. It'll be fine. You're going to help
yeah.
other women.
And I was like, not a chance.
Absolutely not. No, no, no. Look at you now.
All I can say is, you know, I'm on the group, I'm on the clients group, I'm on the main group on Facebook. If anyone wants to fire me a message, to sort of find out more or whatever, then that I'm very welcome. I'm very open about it. But all I can say, Leanne, is like you are going to fly because women need this. Women need it. They need to be seen. They need to be heard. They don't need to be judged. And this is what Braver Women is all about. And I do feel braver. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, you are. You always have been. You just haven't realised it.
Yeah.
And as you know, you will always remain a lifetime member in that client support group.
I know.
You'll always have access. And as far as I'm concerned,
as well, because
yeah, no one gets left behind.
it's not all rainbows and unicorns. There's going to be times where, it's difficult.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think just having the comfort, traditional therapy, it's like, bye-bye. I think just having a support mechanism, having that peer support, having that ongoing insights and some content from me to just keep you steady. And most people break away of their own accord. And that's the environment that, that it creates. It allows you to see for yourself that you're actually doing okay,
Yeah.
And no, I honestly, I've loved every moment of this success story.
I can't say that I've loved every moment of the therapeutic process, but you know what? We did it.
We did.
I did it, and I'm really proud. I'm really, really proud of myself
Good.
that I have broken these lifelong habits of avoidance, and procrastination, etc., etc. That life is calling me now. Life is calling me.
Well, you're more connected, aren't you?
Yeah, anyone that's listening, do it. Do it.
Thank you.
To see, run around naked in the rain, have a laugh at yourself, don't take life so seriously. That's all I can say. But braver women and the braver women community are just the best thing that has ever happened to me. And that is from my heart. Absolutely.
Oh, Ali.
You're a very talented woman, Leanne, and you are going to help a lot of women. You really are, and have done so already. But, it's about time that therapy changed. It really is about time.
I'm so glad that you experienced the difference, Sally. Honestly, genuinely mean this. It has been a total pleasure working with you. I've really, really enjoyed it. And you are an incredible human being. And you too are going to help an awful lot of women. I'll tell you now.
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. And like I said, my inbox is open.
Excellent. I can't wait to get this published. It's going to be wonderful. Stay on, but for now, I'll say goodbye to everyone and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.